welcome to the latest series of the Business Extra podcast. In this series, we're out on the road visiting business owners who've got a great story to tell and who can offer advice, hints and tips to business owners who are in the position that they have been in the past. Hope you enjoy the latest series of interviews. So I've come on the road today to sunny Kendal, beautiful town in the Lake District in England. And I've come to see a lovely lady called Joan Lind, who's the founder and CEO of TryBooking here in the UK. She's an entrepreneur in residence at Lancaster University. Welcome to the Business Extra podcast, Joan.
Thank you so much, Paul.
I thought we'd get started by maybe you just telling us a little bit about what TryBooking is and what you do.
Thank you so much. Well, we are an online event ticketing platform. We're a national company. We have got our head office here in the wonderful Lake District National Park, and we work with event organisers right across the UK, particularly those in the arts, charities, education and business, to make life a lot easier and to help them promote their events and drive traffic back to their website to do so it gives them a full branded ticketing solution.
So you can't help but think of another name in the event ticketing industry who are pretty well known, who begin with event
yes.
and ends in bright.
Yes.
So most people have heard of them. What makes you different?
So it's such a good question, because I almost didn't launch the business because of Eventbrite, because I thought, crikey, they are the Hoover, they are the Facebook. You know, they're so dominant. What chance do I have? But it's because of our differences I felt compelled. First of all, I felt that Britain deserved its own platform. Eventbrite is terrific, but it's ultimately American. And I felt there's so many great event organisers. Two, I really wanted to focus on community, because there's so much great stuff happens out in the community, and to make life easier for those great people. So where we are different is we've got an absolute focus on customer service. So we're not just a platform. And that customer service culture has grown our business. So anybody, even if you're just using us for free events, where there is no charge, you can still call up our team, get help immediately and get on your way. Because events are stressful. You know, things can happen and people just want access to a human being to be reassured. So customer service is one of our big differences. Also, I was passionate about we're just an enabler. It's not our event.
Yeah.
So everything in our platform is about the organiser being able to showcase their business, their brand, their website. So it feels like their event experience, not a TryBooking experience or another platform's experience.
Yeah.
And the third thing is about fees. I really wanted people to be able to calculate, because all these platforms work on fee-based, but ours are brutally simple. And I'm a big, passionate believer in brutal simplicity.
Yeah.
So we kept our fees really clear, really transparent, but also very easy to calculate, so the event organisers could set up their ticket price and know exactly where they stood. So they're just three. And the final one, which is a bit dry, but it's really important, is we host all of our data in the UK.
Right.
So this business was launched in 2014, ahead of the infamous GDPR changes in May 2018.
Yeah.
So right from the start, we hosted our data in the UK to comply with those changes that were going to be happening across the country.
Right, okay. And I know before we came on air, we were talking about who actually owns the data.
Yes.
And that's important to a lot of organisations in the UK, isn't it?
It's really important. You know, if you know anything about the importance of data, event organisers want to be the data controller. They should be the data. It's their event, it's their data. So with TryBooking, we are very clearly merely the data processor. Uh-huh. We do not control your guest details. And that, again, is been a big part of our growth. There's certain organisations, from the NHS to government agencies to education, who recognise that need and have turned to us because our data policies are so clear.
And can you give us a few of the names of some of the organisations that you're working with now?
Yeah, well, so we're based in the Northwest. So any of you listening in the Northwest will know this gorgeous brand, which is Booth, the grocer.
Oh yes, I shop there when I can.
Yes, and we've got one right next door to our head office.
Amazing.
So we love the fact. So we work with Booth, which is an amazing grocer in the Northwest. More nationally, we work with charities like Marie Curie. We work with lots of NHS foundations, from Addenbrooke's in Cambridge to Rosemere in Preston.
Yeah.
We work with lots of education. We're really passionate about working with education sector, because again, they do so much, and they've got so little time. So we can save hours of staff time. So we work with universities, independent schools, primary schools. We love working with the education sector.
Marvellous. And what's in the future for TryBooking?
Well, I think the future's bright. I think we are most passionate about continuing to support the sectors. So prior to launching TryBooking, I ran global ad agencies. And one of the lessons I was always giving my clients is to really focus on your core target audience, because most brands or products or services can be all things to all people.
Yeah.
You've got to really focus in on the ones that you can make a difference. And we've identified 4, and we have stuck to that for the last 9 years.
Right.
And right now, we have no plans to change that, because what happens by focusing on this core target audience is we also get other sectors that come to us, and that's terrific.
Yeah.
And they grow organically. So we haven't wavered from that because we're still seeing such huge potential to help them.
Brilliant. So we'll come back to how people get in touch with you and contact TryBooking a little later, but you sort of touched on there something that you used to do in terms of working for global ad agencies. So tell me the story about how Joan Lind ended up in the Lake District being founder and CEO of TryBooking in the UK, when you're clearly not from the Lake District originally. So what's the story? What's the journey?
So the story is I was brought up in the Highlands.
Uh-huh.
But my family, all my grandparents, aunts and uncles, all were from Edinburgh. My parents were from Edinburgh. My father's work took him to the Highlands. So I spent 4 or 5 times a year in Edinburgh. Loved Edinburgh. All I knew throughout school was I was going to Edinburgh to be a student.
Uh-huh.
Probably to study something that would take me overseas.
Yeah.
Because I loved travelling. I'd been lucky enough to live in Vancouver when I was 15. So I went to Edinburgh, I studied business and commerce. And when I came out, I knew I wanted to travel. I thought about the Foreign Office, thought about the services. And I found this amazing headhunter. She was ahead of her time. I'm not a young chick. She was ahead of her time in the late 80s, where she'd come back from London and she headhunted and positioned people on their personalities,
right,
not on their skill set in academics. She met me and said, have you thought about advertising agencies? I went, oh, God, no. Oh, no. I wanted something much more. Anyway, I went on to have an amazing 20-plus year career in ad agencies. I started in Edinburgh at a small agency doing the Edinburgh International Festival, Drambuie, etc. And within a year, I was in London. And in London, I worked for 2 large global agencies. Uh-huh. And that was throughout the 90s. And probably the campaign, so I worked on brands that you would all know, Colgate Palmolive, Prudential, UIP Films. But the campaign that you all might remember the most was the BT It's Good to Talk campaign with Bob Hoskins, which I ran for 4 or 5 years in the late 90s. And that was a real thrill. And then I left London and went to Sydney to work at the very well-known ad agency M&C Saatchi.
Yeah.
And I ran brands like Qantas, British Airways, Audi, Rupert Murdoch's newspaper. So I was in that blue chip world.
Good names to drop.
So that was my world.
Yeah.
Very corporate, very blue chip. Never thought I'd change. But in our mid-40s, with 2 young Australian children, my husband and I did absolutely the right thing. Didn't feel it at the time. We knew it was the right thing, but we thought it was going to be absolutely plagued with issues, to give up both of our corporate careers and come to the Lake District to care for elderly parents.
Right. And
it was in that move that took me to TryBooking, because it's cloud-based. Uh-huh. I was a user of it. I reached out to the Australian head office. It only existed in Australia.
Yeah.
And asked them if I could launch it here. And we've launched it here as a British company, and everything about the company we run solely from the UK.
Brilliant. And that was how many years ago?
That was
9 years ago?
So I left Sydney in 2013
yeah,
and launched TryBooking in 2014. So the business is exactly 9 years old this month.
Brilliant. And you've also been an entrepreneur in residence at Lancaster University for the last 6 years as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
So that was fantastic. So yes, almost as long as I've been running the company, I've been an entrepreneur in residence. So all the way through my advertising career, I was very much about nurturing talent. So I was always part of the graduate schemes, etc. Did lots of training. But I was actually introduced to the Entrepreneur in Residence programme through another female businesswoman in Kendal.
Right.
Because at that point, the Entrepreneur in Residence programme had been going for a number of years, but it was still quite male dominated, and they were actively looking for female entrepreneurs. So she introduced me to them. And I absolutely love the whole philosophy. So the whole philosophy is bringing the real world of business into the world of academia. So students can have their academics, but they can also really understand what it's like in the real world, which no academic piece can ever do. And the thing I love most about that is the engagement with the students. So I'll lecture as often as they wish me to. I'll be parts of panel discussions. So they'll have me along with maybe a finance guru or a product guru, and we all give our different opinions. But also one of the things that we've done proactively is always have a Lancaster University student come into the organisation.
And you've got one right now as well.
We've got one right now who's studying PPE. So that's not PPE, the masks. That's philosophy, politics and economics. He is about to go into his second year. And he started with us before he started as a student there.
Right.
But prior to Alex being with us, we always had a second year business studies student who'd work with us throughout term time.
Okay.
But now Alex has gone a bit further and works with us continuously.
And what do you think that brings to your business, having students and you being involved in the university and them being involved with you?
I just love it because they come with so many new ideas. Like I have to, every day Alex has got a new idea or something he wants to try and we go for it. So it's great for them because I think I'm passionate about communication. Absolutely passionate about really clear, really responsive communication. And I think one of the things universities can never teach you is the importance of that in the business context. The ability to join the dots quickly, the ability to communicate really clearly. So I love it because I know we're giving them that. So they're streets ahead of where they would be having not had this experience.
Yeah, of course.
And then for us, it's just about having that energy of new ideas, new ways of thinking, problem solving. And so we just love it.
Brilliant. It's always interesting to get new ideas and new blood in because, there's always a different way of doing things. Now, you mentioned that you were introduced to Lancaster University by another woman business owner in Kendal. And I know that you're passionate about women in business as well. Tell me a little bit about what it means to you to be a woman entrepreneur and a woman CEO in today's environment.
Oh, well, I feel really honoured on a couple of levels. I feel a real privilege that I've been given the skill set to do it, but also had the courage to do it. And I think there's so many more women in business now than there ever were, which I think is fantastic. And this is borne out, look at people like Alison Rose in the finance world, or one of the other ladies I'm going to mention later in your interview, with another finance brand. So for me personally, why I love it is one, the ability to pass on that skill set from a leadership point of view to another whole generation of women. Now we have absolutely mixed male and female here, but I have to be honest, we've got a skew towards females, and that's more because of our customer service orientation. But I'm passionate about giving them the skill set and giving them the wings to be brilliant either at TryBooking or to go off. So for me, it's about that. And I think also it's about... I'm not a raging feminist at all. And I think this whole feminist thing has gone way too far because I think women and men are equally brilliant in their own ways. So for me, it's about getting that balance right. So I was brought up in the 80s. I first started, my career in the late 80s when women had to be like men. So what I've loved is I'm a woman being a woman, but absolutely respecting how men and women work together, what men bring to the party, and knowing our strengths and weaknesses. And it's certainly not about women know everything. It's not. It's absolute nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
And if you had to give your younger self, an 18-year-old Joan, any piece of advice, what would it be?
To speak more slowly. It's always been my Achilles heel. I would say, Joan, learn to speak more slowly more often. Joan, learn to have a better poker face more often. But the biggest one, which us girls are bad at, would be to stop beating yourself up so much. So I'm my own worst enemy, and that is true of a lot of women. But I think that's also the thing that makes us better than we ever thought we could be.
I think mindset is so important. Not in not just in women as well, because, if you think about it traditionally, in education, there's this mantra of get a good education, go and get a good job. There's no mantra of go and get a good education, become an entrepreneur and own a company and build a business. It's always go and get a good job. So there's something, the entrepreneurial sort of mindset is missing somehow when we're leaving school, unless you've been fortunate enough to be brought up in an environment where there are entrepreneurs or business owners, or your family's a family business. So I think that mindset is so important in younger people nowadays, and I think our education system doesn't spend enough time with students on mindset and building resilience and that kind of stuff. I don't know whether you agree with that.
No, well, I think there's three really big points there. You're absolutely right. I think our education system isn't set for this generation of futures. It was, it's still, in fact, I was with a lady yesterday who said the Education Act today is still the Education Act of 1886.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
Something incredible like that. So I think the whole education system, globally, I'm not just talking about the UK, needs a complete rethink. Because secondarily, you're absolutely right, and I was one of those. I was very happy being a corporate employee, loved it. I moved to more entrepreneurial culture within the Saatchi.
Yeah.
And I felt this entrepreneurship, and I really enjoyed it. And that's what gave me the bug.
Yeah.
I'm quite clear, if I hadn't had the MNC Saatchi experience, I probably wouldn't have chosen to launch TryBooking.
Yeah.
Because their culture was so much more entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
But equally, I'd loved the agencies I worked at before, but they were much more corporate. So I too was on a corporate track, having a job.
Uh-huh.
And one of the questions I get asked, going back to Lancaster University, is, are you born an entrepreneur? Or is it your environment? Now, I think there's certainly truth that people are born with that sort of mentality. People like Richard Branson, Elon Musk. But I'd lecture this to the students, and this is my view, but I feel quite passionately about it. I think every person who starts their own business or entrepreneur would benefit from working for corporate first. So even if you're a raging entrepreneur type, and I've seen them in my ad days, particularly males and females who are clearly very entrepreneurial, broke the rules, but actually you learn so much about good management skills, good communication skills, from being a team member that you can never learn just by being the person at the front.
Yeah. And that's a challenge as well, because being in business is tough. It's not easy, otherwise everybody would be doing it. But it should be relatively simple. If you do a series of steps, then you should be able to build and grow a business. And the corporates of this world have demonstrated that. If you systemize, if you have good management and leadership, the right sort of systems in place for technology, for recruitment, for people, for finance and everything else, if you've got business plans and direction, all the sort of things that we teach here at Action Coach as well, then you can become a good business owner. The challenge is we can get years of education to be really good in our core skill set, whatever kind of role we're in, whatever kind of trade or profession we're in, but how much training you do to actually be a business owner. And for most people, it's absolutely none. Even the business studies, education programs and courses that there are, is very theoretical about what we do. It doesn't teach you the practical side of owning, running, scaling, growing a business. There are some exceptions to that, but in general, we don't get much help in terms of growing a business. So if you think back to when you started TryBooking, how did you learn what you needed to know, and how did you discover what you needed to know in order to grow a business and be a CEO of a business? So
there's a really big part of this that I think is really important when you're growing a business, which is culture. So I was very clear on the culture that I wanted to grow here. And I was fortunate enough to understand the importance of culture because of my advertising experience. Because as all my great bosses, and I was very lucky, every agency I worked for had phenomenal management, and they were all very clear. They don't produce widgets, they don't have factories. We produce huge ideas. So the talent is the people in the building. So you have to nurture that talent, and therefore you have to be very clear of the culture, because not everybody's, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, you might not be right for different cultures. So when I launched this, I was very clear, culture, without culture, we're going to have nothing. So when I'm hiring people, I hire on culture first. They could be the best customer service person on the planet, but if they're not a cultural fit, we won't hire them.
Okay.
So I think culture is one of the big things that anybody starting a new business really has to think about.
And what's your culture? Yeah.
So our culture is very, very much about clear communication, openness, transparency, going the extra mile, being proud to go the extra mile. It's not just a clock in at 9 and a clock at 5, I can do the best job. It's about being intuitive, reading between the lines, problem solving. We want people that like to problem solve.
Okay.
So culture is, I think, a big, big part of when you're starting a business, giving real thought to what that is. And I think the next one is communication. Because you can have the best product in the world, the shiniest, newest, innovative thing. It could be a phone, it could be a bottle of gin. But if the communication right from day one within that tiny team is not there, it's never got. You've really got to hone in on that, and particularly back to your customers. And a number of times I've heard of businesses failing because the communication just hasn't been there. So for me, culture and communication are two of the big things that I've. Now back to the second part of your question, what did I have to learn? Well, I'd never run a cloud-based business. Do you even know what the term meant? What does cloud-based mean? I wasn't a techie.
Yeah.
So I get asked a lot, were you the person that wrote the program? I said, absolutely not. I'm not that person. Where I'm great is my strategic, creative, customer service skills. So I had to learn to really understand all the different elements that we need from a process point of view.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I learned really quickly that we did right from the start, thank goodness, was everything in our business was cloud-based. From the telephone system to our CRM program to our finance program, everything is cloud-based. We didn't invest in any software. We didn't try and build any software because we knew that there was these cloud-based services that were much smarter to use. And on COVID, because we had a cloud-based telephone system, all of my team worked from home from the 21st of March 2020, never had to use their personal mobiles. All our clients still phoned the one number, got straight through to the team. So it was things like that. And actually I was hearing lots of conversations through COVID about, we need to move from analog to cloud. And I was going, you really do, because, we all know during COVID, it was impossible to speak to any businesses, including the banks. We had no problems.
Yeah.
All of our clients were panicking, they were cancelling events, and they were able to pick up the phone, get through to us, be reassured, and goes back to that communication thing again.
Brilliant.
So I really just invest a lot of time thinking about what are the right systems that are in tune with our culture and customer service, but also make it really easy for us to run the business.
Good. So, everybody knows that in order to have a better business, you've got to become a better business owner. What sort of things do you do now, or have you done in terms of becoming a better business owner? What sort of things do you read? What do you watch? What do you listen to? Who do you speak to?
So one of the things I never did when I worked in corporate was network. Didn't need to. It was a concept that didn't exist. I worked in an environment where, Audi would put their business up for pitch.
Yeah.
And we would reach out to Audi, say we'd like to pitch. They go yes or no. And if they said yes, we then went through a 3-month pitch process. So networking was not a concept. So I've really enjoyed, and I started networking purely to meet other like-minded business people, not to sell TryBooking. So I would say anybody listening to this who's a bit nervous, particularly women, it can be quite daunting to go and network. Do network. And there's some network, again, it's cultural. You find the ones that work for you. I know there's certain networks that just don't work for me and other ones that work really well. Yep. I also know how often I feel I should network. I would like to network. I don't feel I have to do. So I think networking is one area. Two of my most inspiring, I've got lots of inspiring men. I mean, working with Satch's was one. But two of the most inspiring women that I adore are Jo Malone. From a personal point of view, I've always loved her products. And
I remember you recommended her book to me some time ago, and it's a brilliant read.
Even for men.
Yes.
Because what was brilliant about her book is her talent was her nostril.
Yeah.
All of her talent came out of her nostril. And she learned through quite tough circumstances, quite a lot of barriers to get through, to really follow that talent and look what we see now. So Jo Malone, but the other one is the lady behind Starling Bank, the Welsh lady, whose name I've just forgotten. Let me just get this up. And
it's all right. Don't worry.
If you haven't read her book,
we'll put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yes, if we haven't read her book, really recommend it. So she, interesting, tiny parallels. She launched Starling Bank the same year I launched TryBooking.
Yeah.
She was in her mid-50s. I was slightly younger. But she took on a much tougher sector, which is finance. Very male-dominated. Her book is brilliant.
Yeah.
Males and females, again, will get a lot out of her book.
Brilliant. I will listen to that. So we've talked about role models. We've talked about the things that you do. Are there any other particular? Are you doing any learning at the moment? Do you have any people that you talk to in terms of helping you with your business?
So at the moment, it's mainly through the university, actually.
Right.
So the Entrepreneur in Residence programme, one thing they're passionate about is giving back to us.
Yeah.
Which I've done very little of, because I really enjoy the programme because I love to give to the students.
Yeah.
But they've been very good at saying, no, we're here to support you. So I found the network through the university, really, other business people, but also the academics and other people off that. So my main sort of area at the moment is through the university.
Great, okay. So for any people starting out in business now, or are thinking of starting their own business, or have recently started and are maybe stuck in that hamster wheel where they're working and things aren't really quite happening, what kind of advice would you give to people like that?
So I know this sounds a bit naive, but honestly it's about just taking a leap of faith. When I launched TryBooking, there was more leap of faith going on than there was, there was clearly a plan, but there was also a huge leap of faith. You have to be able to have, that whole thing, no risk, no gain. The other thing I'm quite passionate about, and I've been on a panel discussing this, and I was the odd one out in the group, is about how you invest.
Okay.
So a lot of people do seed, they go out and get seed investment, all of that stuff, and that's all great. I was older, so I had a bit more behind me, but we have always self-funded this business.
Right.
And at one point we may yet still look to get investment, but we're almost at the point we've gone beyond that. There was such momentum in the business.
Yeah.
So for me, in a way, it's not luck, because we chose to do it that way. We sacrificed. Yeah. So we sacrificed in other ways. I didn't take holidays for the first 3 or 4 years, for example. So you can't launch a business thinking you can have it all. That's naive. Yeah. So you have to sacrifice in different ways. So if you'd rather not sacrifice but be beholden to an investor but still have your holidays every year, of course that's a route. For me personally, we really wanted to go the organic route. Yeah. And for us, that has proven to be a route that has worked really well. Yeah. So if you can, look at your assets, look at how you can self-fund yourself, take a call every 3 or 4 years, is this working or is it not? Then you can make judgments. And probably about 5 years in, it was 5 years in, it was 2019, I was speaking to investors. Yeah. Thank God we didn't, because then COVID came. Yeah. But the message I was getting from quite a few of them, not all of them, was you don't need us anymore. So that's my two. Then that's a more unusual route. And I said I've sat in a panel discussion where everybody else is all about how you get seeded, how you get investor money, how you manage investors. But we've not done that.
It's different for everybody. There are plenty of great examples of companies who've bootstrapped their growth, and if you can, great for companies who want to scale more rapidly or more quickly. Then sometimes investment can be the right solution. Definitely. Well. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
No, definitely.
And there's lots of different types of investment that you can go for as well.
Definitely. And you could argue we could have grown even quicker, even faster. Yeah. But because of the kind of culture and business we wanted to, we've chosen to go down that route.
Yeah. I think there's something else to be said around, not quite the same as investments, but in terms of debt. If you want to raise money, then a lot of people are very proud when I talk to them about the business to say that we've never had any debt. And that can be a good thing. But also, if you've got outside people looking at your company and saying, well, why haven't you got any debt? Because debt, as long as you can manage those repayments and service those repayments, can really help you to move forwards as well. If you need a new piece of technology or a new piece of machinery where you can get a return on investment quite quickly, but you can't really fund that from cash flow, then you can fund it from debt, and it's a good form of debt. So
I'm not saying we haven't had debt. I'm just saying we don't have external. Yes. So absolutely, and in fact, I've overly invested in particularly in talent, for growth, and sacrificed, the different parts. So I absolutely agree with you, but again, it's about managing it. And again, about managing your costs. So again, through COVID, we were able to manage our costs really nimbly and really quickly. So being able to make sure you don't have costs that you can't manage easily. And again, we were able to do that really easily, which is why we were able to, grow the business throughout COVID.
Brilliant. If you could do one thing differently, what would it be?
In all honesty, I'm really proud of the fact the head office is where it is.
Yeah.
But that was always going to be one of the toughest parts in terms of finding good people. And maybe I'd have started a satellite office. I did look at people working virtually. This is back in 2014. But maybe I'd have started a satellite office with virtual staff as well as that. Because one thing that works really well is we're all together because it's such a customer service orientation. But again, we were using Zoom in 2014. We were getting really frustrated because we want clients to jump on Zoom so we could show them how to use, what's Zoom? I'm not doing that. So probably would have been bolder doing another satellite office in another part of the country where the population works. We do skew towards the south because that's where population is. Okay. That'd have been quite fun, I think.
Brilliant. Okay. Joan, I can't believe it's already been half an hour. How do people find you and how do they find TryBooking if they want to talk to you?
Well, first of all, find TryBooking first. It's a more interesting bit. So literally go to Google, pop in TryBooking, that's TryBooking, and you'll find our website. All the contact details are there. If you want to find me personally, go to LinkedIn and look for Joan, Joan, Lind, as in the chocolate without the T. There's not many of us on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Well, I can vouch for TryBooking because we use it within our business. If you go to our Action Coach pages, you'll see TryBooking embedded into our events. TryBooking are a brilliant company to work for. You can set up a free account just to give it a go, can't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you very much, Joan, for spending that time with us and for talking to us about TryBooking and your journey. We'll put some show notes on the side. Anybody needs to contact Joan can do so via LinkedIn, via the website, and we'll put the name of that book on there as well for the
Starling Bank.
Starling Bank. Joan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.